Afterwards, he returned to the car just now and helped Elaine out of the broken leg. Elaine managed to endure the pain in her leg, got out of the car, and then endured the pain again, and was sent into another car by Charlie. As soon as she was driving away, she lowered the window and cursed the driver who was smoking on the side of the road. "Bad son, you must have a car accident and die outside today." When the driver heard this, he cursed with anger. "You ugly woman must have died in front of me." Elaine was immediately furious and wanted to stick out her head to continue cursing, but the car had already driven far, so she could only give up in anger. Charlie, who hadn't spoken all the time, couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Hey, mother-in-law, seems to have been tortured in the detention center, otherwise she would not be like this. He couldn't help but began to sympathize with his old father-in-law Jacob. Elaine wanted to know that he was busy dating Mei Qing these 2 days, and he couldn't get his brains out? The taxi came to the emergency department of Urus Hill People's Hospital. Claire was already waiting here. Seeing Elaine not only broke a leg, but also had a miserable appearance with a blue nose and a swollen face. Even 2 of her front teeth had fallen out. She couldn't help but her eyes were red. She walked up and asked, crying, "Mom, how can you suffer like this? Such a serious injury?" When Elaine saw her daughter, she felt sad. All the grievances she had suffered in the past 2 days could not be restrained at this moment. She hugged Claire and cried loudly, "My dear girl, Mom's life is so bitter, don't you know? I almost died in these 2 days, you almost never saw Mom again." After speaking, Elaine's mood suddenly collapsed, and she burst into tears. Claire saw that her mother had been wronged so much. Naturally, she felt very uncomfortable. While supporting her mother, she cried and asked, "Mom, what's the matter with you these past few days? Tell me." Elaine wiped out a tear, with an urge in her heart, wanting to tell her daughter exactly what happened. But when the words came to her lips, she swallowed them all back. She knew that she couldn't talk nonsense about this kind of words, otherwise the words would cause death or jail. So she could only lie. "Hey, don't mention it. Mom let a MLM swindle. After that person tricked me into the MLM organization, she kept beating me and forced me to buy their products. But how can I have money? They kept beating me, and they didn't give me food, my front teeth were knocked out by them." Claire hurriedly asked, "Mom, have you called the police?" "Let the police arrest them." Elaine cried and said, "Later, the MLM organization was caught by the police, and even I was arrested by the police into the detention center. Unexpectedly, I met your grandma and Wendy in the detention center. They were both in the detention center. There they got together to bully me." Claire asked in shock, "Grandma and Wendy? Why are you locked up with them?" Elaine cried out of breath and said, "I don't know why I was so unlucky that I met 2 of them bastards. They didn't let me sleep, didn't let me eat, and they put cold water on me. You don't know what kind of life your mother has been living in the past 2 days. That is worse than hell." Claire burst into tears when she heard this. Elaine vented for a while, just as her mood improved a little, suddenly thought of Jacob, and immediately questioned, "Claire, you tell me the truth, who on earth did your dad go to the party with?" Claire knew very well in her heart that if she let her mother know that the father was partying with Mei Qing and their old classmates, she would definitely be so angry. At this time, she was already very emotional, and she couldn't say anything to add fuel to the fire. So she said, "It should be a gathering with his old classmates. I am not too clear about the specifics. Maybe it is the last time." "It's not quite right," Elaine said with a black face. "His old classmates can't get together once in a few years. It is impossible to get together again in a short time and go again. This time there must be a different opportunity." Claire could only lie against her will. "I don't know this too well." Elaine gritted her teeth with anger, and said coldly, "This old bastard, I have suffered so much inside, and he still has the mind to go to party with others, really heartless." Claire had no choice but to speak for her father, saying against her will, "Mom, during the 2 days you disappeared, Dad was also very anxious." "I don't believe it." Elaine said sternly, "This old bastard, he said that he would separate from me 2 days ago." I went in without the separation. I guess he doesn't know how happy he is. Claire hurriedly said, Mom, don't speculate about Dad like this. As she was talking, Jacob drove his BMW 530 to the hospital. Seeing Elaine's horrible look, Jacob was also stunned. Although he has no feelings for Elaine in his heart, he has lived under Elaine's lust for so many years that his heart is still very timid towards Elaine. So the fundamental reason why Elaine quickly turned the other way around when he called. When Elaine saw Jacob, her anger went wild. There is no other reason. The main reason is that Jacob's dressing up is really too careful, with a decent suit, a decent tie, and his hair meticulously combed. At first glance, he has been well dressed for a long time. Elaine is not a fool. She immediately realized that Jacob's dressing up today was definitely not for herself, but for the party. This made her suddenly become extremely alert. She began to speculate, what are the important elements of this party that would make Jacob dress so seriously for the first time? From the time she married him to the present, except for the day of the wedding, she seemed to have never seen him dressed up so vigorously. When Jacob arrived, he asked, Where did you go? How did you make it like this? Elaine observed at him coldly, and blurted out, You tell me the truth, who are you partying with?